From humble beginnings in England to topping the charts worldwide, Go West's journey is a roller coaster of 80s pop stardom. Today, let's talk about how two struggling musicians crafted hit singles in a basement studio, rubbed shoulders with rock legends, and created an iconic song for one of Hollywood's biggest romantic comedies. A romantic comedy that ended up revitalizing the group's struggling career. This is the story of Go West, a tale of persistence, talent, and the unpredictable nature of the music industry. Our story begins in 1974 in Twickenham, southwest London. A young singer from a blues-based rock band named Peter Cox was looking for a drummer for his own band. He saw an ad in the paper for a group who shared a similar sound to what he was looking for. Hoping to poach the group's drummer, Cox reached out to the group and asked them when their next gig was, but they didn't have anything lined up. They did, however, invite him to a local rehearsal space. As Peter left that rehearsal space, the group's guitarist Richard Drummie asked if Peter had a tape of his own band. Upon listening to the tape, Drummie was blown away by Peter's voice. They soon started talking and discovered that they had very similar musical influences. These included Michael McDonald, Robert Palmer, Free, Steely Dan, Todd Rundgren, and the Doobie Brothers, to name a few. The pair started writing together, and this led to the formation of Go West, which took its name from the British public's greater interest in American acts rather than their homegrown bands. By 1982, both Peter and Richard recorded an 8-song demo tape, and thanks to a mutual friend of theirs, it found its way to a publishing company named ATV Music, who signed the pair under the name Cox and Drummie. The publishing deal was just for the pair of musicians to write their own tunes and not to write for other artists. To help craft songs in hopes of landing a major recording contract, they worked with producer Gary Stevenson as well as keyboardist Dave West, in addition to several other musicians. Drummie remarked, "We badly wanted that publishing deal, not because we wanted to be a couple of songwriters, but because they would pay for us to do better demos. We were a two-man act with no band, no money, writing on guitar and bass, so when we got the deal, we got keyboards and a Porta studio, and locked ourselves away and kept writing demos." The duo toyed away for 3 long years before knocking on the doors of major labels, but mostly everyone said no. The labels didn't hear a hit. However, they did get some constructive feedback from EMI, with Richard remarking, "These songs are great, so hey, let us know what you're going to do next." Richard added, "We decided to give the record companies what they wanted and write the most hit-sounding song we possibly could." This resulted in the pair going back and coming up with 2 songs, including Call Me and We Close Our Eyes. Drummie recalled to Express, "Call Me, the demo sounded like 7 ice cream vans coming around the corner. Any toddler would have gone mad for it." This resulted in a bidding war, with the group nabbing a deal with Chrysalis Records. Wanting to stay in familiar territory, the duo commandeered the same studio that they cut their demo songs in, a modest and cramped 16-track recording facility that was called Rooster Studios, in the basement of a house in Shepherd's Bush in West London. Released in April of '85, the group's debut album, which was self-titled, got a boost thanks to the lead single We Close Our Eyes, which reached number 5 on the UK singles chart, and it also made a mark across the Atlantic in the States, where it reached number 41 on the Hot 100 chart. It also went to number 5 on the US Dance Club Play chart. The video also helped boost the single's success and the album, since it was directed by the successful duo of Godley and Cream, who had previously worked with the likes of The Police and Duran Duran. The video for We Close Our Eyes was filmed over 1 day, and the budget dwarfed that of the entire album, costing around £90,000 at the time. The duo followed it up with several more successful singles, including Don't Look Down, Call Me, Eye to Eye, and Goodbye Girl. They were quickly getting a lot of comparisons in 1985 to another big pop duo, Wham! Their debut record peaked at number 8 in the UK and went on to sell an impressive 1.5 million copies worldwide. It spent an astounding 83 weeks on the UK charts, and Call Me was even used in a British telecom advertisement extolling the importance of communication. However, this success resulted in a bit of a backlash. There was some criticism levied against the duo over the amount of promotion this virtually unknown group had gotten at the time, especially considering that they didn't take the conventional route of playing a lot of gigs before being signed. The Evening Telegraph remarked in 1985, Is it a question of hype, or have Chrysalis just done their job well? The success of their debut album established Go West as one of the most promising new acts to come out of Britain in the mid-80s. Peter Cox's distinctive vocals and the group's blend of pop and soft rock found a global audience. People were excited to see what the band was going to do next. By late 1985, it was being reported in the press that Sylvester Stallone had tapped the duo to record music for, let's face it guys, the best movie of the Rocky franchise, Rocky IV. They were on tour with Madonna at the time, and they contributed the song One Way Street. And in 1986, they received the Brit Award for British Breakthrough Act. This award was particularly significant as it was the only Brit Award that was decided by the listening public, and it demonstrated a strong connection that the band had established with their fans. What's funny is Go West was convinced that they were going to lose to Norwegian band Aha, but Richard told Express, "I had no idea there were separate British and international newcomer categories." The duo soon found themselves rubbing shoulders with music industry legends and heavyweights and enjoying the experiences that seemed unreal to them at the time. One such experience came when they were invited to write with their hero Robert Palmer for his 1985 album Riptide, which featured the classic hit Addicted to Love. Palmer ended up flying the pair to the Bahamas, where he was recording at the time. Peter told Express, "When we got there, we learned Robert had to go to New York. Being young and foolish, we flew straight to New York to surprise him. He took us in a limo to the Hard Rock Cafe, where blues legend Bo Diddley was playing in a corner a few feet away from us. Just when I thought things couldn't get any madder, the Eagles guitarist Joe Walsh came up to say hello. Now that was a memorable 24 hours. Following the massive success of their debut album, expectations were high for Go West's second record, Dancing on the Couch, which saw a 1987 release. But the album's creation was not without its challenges. The duo spent half a year writing the album on the Isle of Man in the British Isles. Go West was set to record Dancing on the Couch at Beatles producer George Martin's luxurious studio on the Caribbean island of Montserrat. But those plans didn't come to fruition. Instead, the duo headed east to Denmark, recording in a village. Cox told Express, "We were told the Danish studio had all the latest amazing recording equipment. Looking back, Montserrat might have been a bit nicer, especially as our record company charged us 50% of the cancelled Montserrat trip." There were reports in 1986 that the band almost stopped their Denmark recording sessions due to the Chernobyl disaster. They were also fielding a lot of questions from the press about why they took a 2-year break between records, which in today's age doesn't seem that ridiculous. Drummy explained they hit a bunch of snags, remarking, "I contracted some illness, a kidney infection. Then we had problems with bands we were using, various things. The computer wouldn't do as it was told, and then the tape machine was attacked by a cup of coffee. Nothing seemed to be going right." He went on to add that the album songs were more sophisticated and more narrative driven. The duo did also get some help from Kate Bush, whose guitarist Alan Murphy played with Go West from time to time. The reclusive pop icon lent her vocals to the jazz-influenced tune The King is Dead. Richard explained to Express, "In the studio I said what the song needed to liven it up was a powerful woman's voice like Kate Bush. Alan told us, why don't you just get Kate Bush? He phoned Kate saying to her, look, there's this band I'm working with who needs some help." Bush wasn't a fan of flying, and since the band was in Denmark, Richard remarked, Kate sent her vocals over on a tape that she'd wrapped in foil to preserve it. We were like kids at Christmas opening that parcel. Bush refused to take payment for her participation on the track, so the duo instead bought her a vase as a thank you gift. Their second album peaked at number 19 on the UK charts, but failed to make a significant mark in America. It did, however, spawn several singles that performed reasonably well on the UK charts, including I Want to Hear It From You and The King is Dead, which charted in the UK. The album's disappointing performance spelled troubled times ahead for the duo. Following Dancing on the Couch, Go West saw a change of scenery. The duo moved across the Atlantic to America thanks to a music executive named Ron Fair, who worked for their American label, EMI, and he really liked what the pair were doing at the time, and he started to give the pair more attention than their label executives back home. Moving to America had a profound influence on the pair's songwriting as they became steeped in American culture and American music. It also offered them the opportunities to work with American songwriters and producers, but their label wasn't impressed with the songs that the duo was coming up with for their prospective third album. Cox told news.au.com, "We had a standoff with the label until they effectively cast us into limbo for a while. We spent several months languishing at home, wondering what the future held. But during this time, they had some songwriting sessions with British songwriter Martin George Page, whose credits included Earth, Wind and Fire, Heart, Robbie Williams, and Starship. You may be interested to know that he helped co-write We Built a City." Cox one day overheard Drummy saying Go West were, and I quote, "the kings of wishful thinking" in a bar with the members of Robert Palmer's band, and he thought it would be a good title for the song they were working on at the time. As they wrapped up the song, the record label changed their tune and thought they had a hit on their hands. Go West initially recorded the track with Wendy and Lisa from Prince's band The Revolution, hoping that they would add more funk to the song, but the label didn't like the version they cut. They then proceeded to record a second version with the same lineup who worked on Go West's debut album, but the label still wasn't happy. It wasn't until they went into the studio with Chicago producer Peter Wolf that they had a version that everyone was happy with. In the US, the duo were signed to EMI America. In 1990, the label was tasked with putting together the soundtrack for a movie that was tentatively titled 3000, so they assembled their own roster of artists including Red Hot Chili Peppers, Natalie Cole, Robert Palmer, and of course Go West. Thinking 3000 was a movie about the future based on the title, Go West initially declined the offer. The head of the duo's label went on to explain to the group that 3000 was actually a romantic comedy about a man played by Richard Gere who offers a woman played by Julia Roberts $3,000 to spend the week with him. Drummy told Express, "I told Ron," referring to Ron Fair, the head of their label, "a film about a guy buying a prostitute? That's a romantic comedy? Yeah, right. Who's in it?" When Ron told me, I said I'd never heard of Julia Roberts and wondered when the last time Richard Gere had a hit film. I got outvoted by Ron and Peter, and thank God I did. 3000 was later renamed Pretty Woman, and it went on to become one of the most successful romantic comedies in box office history. The king of wishful thinking was also helped by the fact that Robert Palmer wasn't able to produce a hit for the film, with Cox adding, "They paid Robert Palmer a lot of money for a song, Life in Detail. I think they wanted Addicted to Love too. Instead, they got something very different to that. We had a more commercial song, so we got promoted up the ladder." Their song King of Wishful Thinking was used as the opening track of the movie and featured on the film's soundtrack, which ended up selling about 3 million copies in the States. The song revitalized Go West's career, and the single shot up the charts in Britain and America, giving the duo the biggest song of their career. It peaked at number 8 in the States and number 18 in the UK, with Billboard magazine labeling it one of the crown jewels of the 90s classic hits. You also had the memorable music video. In 2018, actor Paul Rudd and late-night host Jimmy Fallon made a shot-for-shot recreation of the music video. The song also received an award in 1991 from the American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers as one of the most played songs on American radio. King of Wishful Thinking appeared on the duo's follow-up record, 1992's Indian Summer, but tensions in the group boiled over. The musicians shared a house in Los Angeles, with Drummy revealing, "That's when I threw a glass at Peter. It was a lovely big house and we didn't have any complaints. The trouble was we'd butt heads in the studio, then come home and continue the arguments." Indian Summer blended pop, R&B, and soul influences, and it resulted in the duo having 2 hits on the album with Faithful, which peaked at number 13 in the UK and number 14 on the Hot 100 chart. They also had a hit with their cover of the Bobby Caldwell song What You Won't Do for Love, which peaked at number 15 in the UK and 55 on the US charts. The album, however, stalled at number 154 in America. And the following year, the pair released a best-of album before taking 9 years apart. In 1994, Cox decided to relocate to Los Angeles to concentrate on his career as a solo artist. This move effectively put Go West on ice, although they never officially broke up. Meanwhile, Richard built a studio focusing on songwriting and recording as well as production. In 2005, to celebrate the band's 20th anniversary, they undertook some tour dates and began writing new music, which eventually became their fourth studio album, Future Now, which saw them gravitate more towards a guitar-based sound. The album received poor reviews from critics, with Cox later admitting that him and Drummy were not on the same page during the recording of the album. The group took another hiatus after the record came out, and they returned with their latest release in 2013, titled 3D. Since then, the duo has been pretty active on the touring circuit, being on the road as recently as this year. That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again in Rock and Roll True Stories. Take care.